So, the nightmare begins again.
Hey, welcome to the start of a brand new series, yet another lesson in masochism by yours truly, FEMS Paint. Last year I did a series I called a Reverse Iron Man, where basically I played through Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, and if a unit ever died, I would restart the run from the top. Problem was, no one ever died. Some people will say that's because I played Path of Radiance on normal, which is super easy. I say it's because I have an absolutely ginormous cranium and I'm just smarter than you. I'm built different. But regardless, I decided for this time I'm going to take it to a harder game. So we're going to go over to Fire Emblem 6 Binding Blade on hard mode and have the exact same rules. However, because I really hate myself, I'm going to add an additional thing. I'm going for full recruitment and the true ending. If any unit dies before I recruit them, it still counts as a game over, and I'm going to have to reset. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, this is a terrible idea, cause, let's just say certain green units really want to kill themselves. But so be it. I ain't gonna cower in fear. I will probably reverse this as I continue to get more and more pissed off at failed attempts, but for right now, I'm gonna talk with confidence. Well, where else to start but with our opening chapter. Chapter 1 is a fairly simple chapter. I mean, it's the first one, how much can really happen in it, and we get our first group of units. Starting us off is Marcus, also known as our god. Marcus, to a casual player, is really bad. They look at him and go, ew, old man with old man stats, and just kind of ignore him. But for this run, Marcus is the single most useful unit, because enemies in hard mode are pretty damn hard, and Marcus is the only character who can really handle them without much of a threat. So this is the playthrough for Old Man on Horse. Then we have our Christmas calves, Lance and Alan. They're the speed-focused one and the power-focused one, but their speed and power growth rates are kind of the exact same, so they kind of even out into the same unit in the end, which is pretty damn good, so we'll be making good use of Alan and Lance throughout the run. After that, we have our boy Roy, the lord of the game and notoriously one of the worst units in Fire Emblem history. I'm not going to try to dissuade that, but I do want to say he does have some uses. And by he, I mean the sword he's using, the Rapier. Its effective bonus against knights doesn't help much because knights are just strong enough to not give a crap even with the damage multiplier, but it's effective against cavalry, and that actually is very important, as there are a few chapters where cavalry are some tricky enemies. So, since fencing isn't taught to anyone other than nobility for some goddamn reason, the Rapier is useful. Roy is not. And then there's Walt. And then there's Boars. With the character introductions out of the way, let's start the chapter proper. The strategy here is fairly simple. All the enemy axe users have a roughly 50-50 chance to actually hit us, and they only need 2 or 3 of those 50-50s to go their way to kill someone. But good news, Marcus exists. And with the Iron Sword in his inventory, Marcus is able to damage them all to a point where they only have about 3 HP remaining after a battle. So the strategy is this. We have Marcus tink them, and then he tinks them again, and then someone bonks them, and gets a kill and the XP. With this, we can get through most of the chapter with relative ease, and spread XP around Alan, Lance, and Roy, and get them pretty well leveled up for the coming battle. And of those level ups, it's really funny. Alan, the strength cav, got speed, and Lance, the speed cav, got strength. I know their growth rates are actually very close to each other in terms of strength and speed, it's really just the base that's different. That's still kind of funny that the Christmas calves got the opposite stats of the other. Huh, I wonder if that means if Roy's gonna be pretty good. I guess some things in this world really are set in stone. The last thing to take care of is the boss, who actually can, despite being at the weapon triangle disadvantage, really hurt pretty much everyone not named Marcus. So what the plan is here is Marcus whittles him down, but Marcus has growth rates that are, non-existent. So what we're going to do is we're going to whittle the boss down with Marcus, and then swoop in for the kill with God is real and he exists to mock me. Moving on to Chapter 2, we get ourselves a handful of new units, and we gotta talk about them. Starting us off is Ellen, our base healer of the game, and arguably the worst of the 3 healers you get in the game. Now look, her base speed of 8 looks good, but her growth in it's only 20%, meaning she's super susceptible to dying. And you know, we can't exactly have that going around. But does Ellen heal well? Well, she has an incredibly good magic growth of 50, which is awesome. Yeah, she has a base of 1. So, she has a good magic growth, but an abysmal base, and a good speed base, but an abysmal growth. Meaning that she doesn't really heal well, and she can't really dodge well either. So, Ellen's kind of just going to exist until we get better units than her. And after Ellen, we have the group of Kaida, Agma, Board, and we have the group of Dick, Shauna, Ward, and Lot. Now, Dick is one of the most reliable units in the game. His bases are very good, especially for just the second chapter, and his growths are good enough. There are runs where your Dick can get speed screwed and he can't really double things come the end game, but for the most part, he's gonna be a safe unit to use for your entire run. Shauna is also a very solid unit, but not as good right out the gate as Dick is. She's got a great speed base, because, you know, Pegasus Knight, but her problem is her abysmal strength base, because, you know, Pegasus Knight. However, she does have a decent 30% growth in it, and if you get her some levels, she should start to take off on her own fairly well. You just gotta get her there. Lot is, in my opinion, one of the underrated units of the game. His bulk is very good. He's got a great HP growth and tied for the best, I should say, defense growth in the game. And he can tank things very well. The promotion gains from fighter to warrior are also absurd. Fucking 8 HP, hello. Lots problems come in with his weapon. Axes are notoriously bad in FE6 when not paladins are using them, and yeah, that's a problem here. He'll be on the weapon triangle disadvantage a lot, and he just will struggle to hit things. Plus, he promotes using the hero crest, which, there's someone that wants that a lot more than he does. A lot more? His name is Lot, and I said a lot. Okay. And then there's Wade. And finally, after all that, we can start talking about how we handled the chapter prior. Right out the gate, I decide to employ my patented run away like a little bitch strategy, and back everyone up and deal with the soldiers on their own before trying to deal with them and the fighters in conjunction. This backfires, because when Dick and his mercenary group show up, they are now sandwiched between the group at the start and the group at the end of the chapter, and they're exposed to a lot of damage that none of them can really take. So, yeah, I almost die right immediately. However, thankfully, we get some lucky dodges, and we're able to group up in the center before tackling on the right side of the map without too much worry. Okay, there was a little bit of a scare with Shauna, but you know what? We don't need to worry about that. We're moving on. Oh yeah, speaking of Shauna, how did that level up for her go?
You fuckers! You fuckers! You motherfucker! I will rain hellfire upon you!
We're able to approach the enemies on the right side of the map with a lot more ease than we could the left. There are 2 forts positioned right before we start our approach up north again, and we can just put 2 units, in my case Marcus and Dick, on the forts and just not really give a shit about anything that happens to us. Unless, you know, you happen to get hit by all the attacks while you're on the fort. I mean, that would just be fucking crazy if that happened, though. It would be an absolute laughingstock, let me tell you. It'd be so funny. It would be hilarious! Sorry. We take care of the enemies that Dick and Marcus weakened by feeding them to the other units that can't kill things quite as easily as they do, and then we just move up slightly and do the same thing again, this time without the protection of the forts, to the other fighters that are up ahead. Oh, when you're off the fort, you dodge. Whatever. While all of this is going on, I'm having Merlinus buy a fuck ton of shit. Lances, swords, I'm not really paying attention to the amount, I'm just buying stuff for the road ahead. Now, this brings up an interesting point with Merlinus. I mean, if he dies, he doesn't die, he just retreats and you can deploy him next map. So if Merlinus dies, does that count as a game over for me? I don't know, so I've simply decided to never let him die so I don't have to think about this question. All that's left to take care of is the big bad boss himself, who is a knight on a gate. Now, knight bosses in this game are actually kind of tricky, as their defense is very good, obviously, but so good that almost none of your units can even damage them. Thankfully, this game gives you an armor slayer, so we just slap Dick right in front of him, and wait for him to try to kill himself, and then we finish him off with Roy for that good old-fashioned XP milking. See that, Marcus? This is how you handle a boss. And that concludes the first 2 chapters of FE6. Will I be able to get through this whole game without dying? No. But when will it happen? Well, come back next time to see if that's on chapter 3. Before this video ends, though, I would like to give a special thanks to my patrons, the people that help fund all of these dumb, silly videos and keep me going. Those patrons include B. Schneer, follow Penta the North Star on Twitch, Great Riek, Green Brigand, Kieran Morin, Nember, Ranger Man Sam, Rory O'Carroll, Ryan Walter, Steph D, Brentendo11, and Drew Hack. Special thanks to all of them, and I'll see you guys for more suffering next time. Take care.